Hola, familia de dinero. I'm your host, Champion El Dinero, and make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. And man, we're gonna be telling you guys the entire hollow truth. From what I found, I've done quite a bit of extensive research in order to figure out what is going on with this weird stock. Things on this stock just don't make sense. And why did they release the conversion notes news out and kill the stock? Well, I'm going to go through all of that and more. But also, I do want to let you guys know that I do trade on Robinhood. This is going to be a brief thing. I'm not like some of these guys who are going to take up a bunch of your time. But I do have Robinhood Gold, and if you guys are interested in building wealth and you've been watching these hollow videos and need a platform, there'll be a link down in the description, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So what we're going to be talking about is Holo. We're going to be talking about Golden Path, and we're going to be talking about BYD and Uber. You're probably, what? What does all these companies have to do? Now, I know this might be a radical theory, but I'm going to go through it, then we'll come back on the main camera. I kind of charted this out. Like I said, I went kind of crazy on the research, but let's go ahead and check out what I got here. Okay, I don't know why the page is blue, but we're going to start with mCloud. Before there was Microcloud Holograms, there was mCloud, and they actually had a huge social, not a gigantic, but they had a huge presence on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, even showing the products. Prior to 2021, they were just mCloud based out in the Cayman Islands. Now, I had to figure out, going through the SEC filings, finding out that Golden Path Acquisition, which is based out in New York, had actually merged with mCloud, making it now a New York-based company. Now, Golden Path set out press release news as to why they acquired mCloud, and this company is, of course, specializes in acquisitions, okay? And again, New York. But of course, we all know that mCloud is actually, or Microcloud Holograms is actually a Cayman Island or Chinese company. Okay, so mind the wind, sorry. So mCloud Holograms prior to 2021 actually had a bigger presence. 2022, they released a lot more news. 2023, they really announced news. Basically, we will always see news in January, February, and then in September of that year, there was a spike in September, around August, September period. 2024, the only news that we ever got was that they have a bunch of convertible notes or conversion notes, whatever you want to call them. We've seen a lot of SEC filings showing that they are building up a bunch of investors and they're putting it into this. So high volume also is very different from all the years prior. So what was different from this year? And we also did see some little, barely any news in January, which we saw that spike in February of this year. But this time we're seeing no news, absolute no news, a bunch of conversion notes, high volume. So is this a real company? Well, like I said, back with mCloud was actually producing items and showing them on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and holographic technology is starting to actually go out in the mainstream concurrently. So to answer the question, is this a real company? I believe so, yes. And like I said, why I believe yes. Now, this is all good and dandy. Some of you probably already knew this stuff, so I'm going to keep that paperweight down right there. You kind of understood this. 2024 rolls around. Now, if you don't know, I had to cover that up so it doesn't fly. Microcloud Holograms, cover that back up, is actually working with BYD in order to create technology for their cars. Now, BYD is also I believe, a Chinese stock or Chinese company. So it's a little tough for BYD to get into the U.S. market because it's not in the U.S. market. So 2024, this past, I believe, week or two, Uber went to go see BYD. Now, BYD is successful outside of the US. So they have smaller type cars, EV vehicles. So Uber came over and said, hey, we would like to work with you guys. So they got a big boost in probably their stock. But what does Microcloud have to do with BYD supplying holographic technology? Well, why are they building up the capital? Now, this might be a far-fetched idea, but it just kind of makes sense. Uber can't merge with BYD. That would bring too much trouble to Uber. And trust me, they've already tried to cancel Uber years prior to even doing this. So who's the best acquisition? Golden Path acquisition, New York based. Who's the best person to buy a company like BYD? Microcloud doesn't have a lot of capital comparable to BYD in order to buy them out until the conversion notes. So the smartest thing for Microcloud to do is buy BYD, and then they become a US based, not really, but US based company where it's a lot easier for Uber to work with BYD. Now, BYD can now sell items in the US without tariffs. And if you don't know about tariff, it's like a stupid tax. Like, I'm talking about a ridiculous amount of money tax. And so BYD can sell their vehicles, they can supply Uber, and everybody's fine because it's now a US based, not really, company. They might change BYD's name. They might be called Micro BYD. They might be called something. This is a crazy theory. But let's go back to the main camera. So a lot of people were like, man, this has to be either the biggest merger or acquisition. And I think this is probably what it is. It's BYD coming over to the US, doing business with Uber, and Microcloud Holograms is just an acquisition company. It really is. I mean, they have a bunch of subsidiaries, but it's just an acquisition company. When you look at Golden Path and you look at the social media of mCloud, they already set up a business here in New York at one point and had the idea of bringing mCloud over. And it surprisingly, California, my grandmother went over to California and she was just like, man, there's Teslas everywhere. And so California is like the domino that will pretty much perpetuate every other city, the way that we operate. And I'm seeing a lot more Teslas coming within my area. So, I mean, I could be wrong. They could be acquiring something minuscule and still pops off the news, but everybody's concerned about, when's the next big pop? Well, that's where I was at too. I was kind of like, oh, when's the big pop? And then I can join that big pop and then I'll be fine. I'll be sitting pretty. But I started actually looking at, and I think honestly, a lot of people have to stop buying stocks just to get rich. I think that we should start doing your research, and I believe I got lucky into finding this stock, and a lot of us too, because what we thought was a market cap of 44 million right now might be a 1 billion market cap. Like the craziest thing to happen. And why is it that Microcloud Holograms, that supplies parts for this company, why isn't the stock matching it? And I believe that, of course, this company wants to put its investors in a spot where, they're going to get a huge return on their money. Of course, these investors are going to sit pretty. This could be a merger between BYD and Microcloud Holograms, where it makes sense. I mean, they supply parts of and also self-autonomized vehicles. You have AI. You have a lot of things that show that this merger or acquisition just makes sense, finding the background of what we have right here. We have Golden Path Acquisition, which is an acquisition company. You have Microcloud Holograms, which is a CMS and other vehicle self-autonomizing AI company, and BYD, which has a difficult time, getting into the market. They're seeing major success in other countries. The only thing is that US have these huge cars, and these huge cars comparable to BYD. A lot of other places, like I go down to Puerto Rico, which I'm Puerto Rican and black, but I go down to Puerto Rico, you don't see a lot of huge gigantic cars. You see SUVs, but they're not like a dang gonna Escalade, they're not a G-Wagon, they're not anything like that. So when I look at it, to me, it's what makes sense. It just makes sense that way, for things like that to all culminate. And I believe that we're gonna see this news in September. It is very much possible, but I would have to be watching the SEC filings, and it would have to take place in the beginning of September. Again, my standpoint is still, if you guys are looking for the pop, I still believe that it's going to happen in September. I've been talking about this, but if not, and if I'm wrong, it won't happen until October or January, February. I'm adding October because I found out that their earnings that they should be releasing is October 23rd, I believe. So honestly, I don't think that this is a bankruptcy company. I don't think that it's going to fall off the NASDAQ. I will stand on that. There's just too many things going for it to fall off like that. It would be crazy if it does, honestly. It'll be freaking, man. So, with that being said, if we get news, it'll be news of acquiring BYD. Or some, I still think it's BYD because I don't think anything else. I mean, it'll be like, cool, we're doing this and we're getting another. I think BYD needs to either be able to sell in the US without any tariffs, and that's just a smart thing. Uber is then partnered with BYD. They're getting automatic vehicles or self-driving vehicles. It all kind of makes sense to me. It makes sense. I think that would be a genius plan. I think that's amazing. Like, you don't have to deal with tariffs. You don't have to deal with a lot of stuff. Even when I was reading the filings of Microcloud Hologram, why they wanted to do these conversion notes, they said that, you know, the one thing that they don't have to deal with is certain laws. You know, they still have the laws over there in China that they have to worry about, but they don't have to deal with a lot of laws like some other Chinese companies that are trying to get on the NASDAQ. They have no basis, right? Let me guys know what you guys think. A reverse RS or reverse stocks split, if that were to happen, it would hurt the stock again, but that would probably push the date out to when they want to do something. So expect that to kind of not get it to $1. Really, it's about that dollar. Getting to $1 is a lot harder than getting to 2. And then 3, and then getting to 10 is a lot harder to get to, like, your number, single digit numbers. From what I've seen of stocks. If I'm wrong, let me know. If my readings and my research and everything like that. But I found YouTube channels, I found Instagram, I found LinkedIn profiles for MCloud, and anybody can do it. I also took the email that they use for the company, and I found out certain things about the CEO or the prior CEO or CFO, whatever it was. But yeah, I'm excited to release this. I could be completely wrong, but again, it just will work out in BYD's sense. The only thing that's missing is, like, why would BYD merger, or why would Microcloud's Holograms merger with or acquire BYD if they don't know anything by the business? But it does now make sense that Golden Path Acquisition is the one that bought MCloud. So they are an acquisition company. They're not a company that wants to produce items. They just acquire these companies and make their money. So Golden Path, if you guys didn't know that, that's that information for you. Oh boy, and it's cold. It's a little chilly out here. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch all of you, Familia de Dinero, in the next one. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Check out that Robinhood Gold down below if you guys want to blow up in wealth and build it with me. And you know, as the years go by, we'll sit back and pray. We'll be like, yeah. So thank you guys. Peace.